How's it going, people? I think my name is Ian, and on this video I'm going to show you how I took this corner of my living room and turned it into an accent wall. So let's get going. After moving out the old shelf that was there, I had to clean up a lot of old dust that had accumulated over time. Next, I measured out the wall for my floating shelves to determine the length of the shelves. The wood I'm using actually came off of a barn from my childhood home, and I was able to salvage some of the 2x material when it was torn down a few years ago. After removing the old hardware and cutting off some of the rougher sections, I was able to begin cutting my shelves to length. Once all my cuts were made, I wanted to give the wood some character, so I went over all the pieces with my angle grinder attached to a wire brush. I'm going to be putting up a total of 4 shelves, each made using 2 2x4s, so I had to make 8 pieces total. I wanted to add some white to these, so I experimented with a new technique using a block of scrap wood, spraying the white paint onto the block, and then rubbing it across the 2x4s. Because of the texture I added, this made the paint only get onto the higher grain and give it a unique look. It was a little bit too much contrast for me, so I let that dry and came back with the rattle can and hit the shelves directly, then immediately wiped the paint off with a rag. This allowed me a lot of control to get just the right whitewash look I wanted, adding more paint on some areas and wiping more paint off of others until I got my desired look. Then once those dried, I sealed the entire pieces with matte clear spray. Back inside, I was using tape to mark my spacing and leveling for my shelf brackets, then attached the brackets and just temporarily laid the 2x4s on them to double check spacing and leveling. To start in the quote-unquote brick section, I used some pretty inexpensive sheets of MDF paneling and cut evenly spaced strips out of it. This is what will simulate the brick and give it depth. Once back inside, I would trim off smaller pieces from the original strips I cut by using my multi-tool, since this was such a soft material. This wasn't a hard project, but it was just time consuming between measuring, checking level, and cutting. Attaching the boards was fairly easy since I had my air-powered brad nailer. I did a similar project over my parents' fireplace a while back, but on that I was going over tile, so I had to use construction adhesive as a nailer would not have worked there. So in comparison, this was a breeze. This MDF comes with two sides, a smooth side and a rough side. I did the rough side out so that when I add spackle later, it will actually stick to it. Working from the corner outward ensured that I will be able to keep a consistent pattern throughout and make it look as if the brick was actually wrapping around it. For the texturing, I used some generic spackle and a putty knife. This stuff was nice because it goes on pink, but once it turns white, you know it's dry and you can either add more or paint it. It took a little while to figure out how to best texture this, but I realized it worked best to just add a thick layer, then come back over and sculpt it once it's on the wall. I played around with a paintbrush and got a really cool texture that I liked. While doing this project, it was a good excuse for me to add a smart dimmer switch on this wall that controls my recessed lighting. With the texture finished, I needed to prep for paint. I took the shelf brackets down, removed outlet covers, the thermostat, furniture from the adjacent wall that was also getting painted, then got going. For the brick section, I had to stick with a brush to get in between the textures, whereas the other wall I could go over quickly with a roller. About 3 coats later, and it was time to assemble everything back together. This time, the 2x4s get permanently attached to the brackets. Okay, so this is a little bit of a bonus clip, but it ties in because this is part of the shelf decor. I found this metal letter with my last initial at a thrift store for only a couple bucks. I wasn't a fan of the paint on it, so with the help of some chemical stripper, I was able to remove the majority of it. Then I wanted to try out this really cool method to induce rust by mixing specific ratios of hydrogen peroxide, white vinegar, and salt into a solution that can be sprayed on. I'd let that dry, then hit it again from different angles until I got the amount of rust I wanted. And once that dried, it could be sealed with some matte clear spray and be ready to add to our finished wall. I really hope you all enjoyed this project. I know I certainly did, and I absolutely love seeing this wall every time I walk into my house. If you want to see more of my projects in the future, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you on the next one.